बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। तो कल हमने शुरू किया था आइडेंटिटी एंड एक्सेस मैनेजमेंट, and in this one we went over basically uh, Active Directory and especially Azure Active Directory. तो मैंने just based on the questions yesterday मैंने थोड़ी सी slides और add की हैं, so I'll just go over a couple of extra things before we continue moving forward. So this is a very critical topic as it makes the foundation of the whole security on Azure basically, and many other enterprise security needs, SaaS applications, and various different things. So yeah, so it's very critical that we understand this thing very clearly. तो इसके अंदर हमने जो कल बात शुरू की थी, हमने वो Azure Active Directory से बात की थी. So what I did was I added a couple of slides for Azure ADDS, Active Directory Domain Services, right? So we understand this. So we understand the motivation of Azure Active Directory, right? Because it's starting from Active Directory. So we have basically three services. If we make a note of this one. So if we talk about it, right, starting point is our Active Directory Domain Services, which is ADDS. This is an on-premises solution, right? Then we have Azure Active Directory, right? And then we have Azure Active Directory Domain Services. Like we have these cloud-based ADDS. So yeah, we have Active Directory Domain Services on premises. Then we have Azure Active Directory, and then we have Azure Active Directory Domain Services, Azure ADDS. You can see the names are same, right? It's cloud-based ADDS. Why we put this thing in the middle is because of this relationship, right? That ADDS on premises can go to Azure AD, and Azure AD can go to Azure ADDS. And you can see while this is bidirectional, this one is unidirectional. That means if you make any changes in Azure ADDS, it cannot go back over here. इसकी क्या motivations है? What are the motivations? Why we need? That's a separate topic. I don't want to go into those details right now. Right? Main thing is to understand these are the three key things that constitute part of your identity strategy. Yeah, these are the three main things that we want to have high level idea. We're not going into the details. We just want to get some high level idea of these services. So yeah. So no need of going into a lot of details about these things, right? But we just want to understand what are the key big things over here. Okay. So सबसे पहले we want to understand what is Active Directory. What is Active Directory Domain Services? सही है? हमने कल कहा था कि Active Directory.
सर अपने स्क्रीन शेयर की है?
Oh sorry, स्क्रीन में नहीं शेयर की हुई. I'm sorry. सही है? Sorry. तो यहाँ पे जो मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज है वो ये है कि व्हाट इज डायरेक्टरी. सो ये हमने कल कहा था डायरेक्टरी बेसिकली इट्स लाइक अ enterprise is like a database for enterprises. So yeah, to store information, to store user and other related info, right? और हमने इसमें कहा था LDAP v3 protocol to talk to directories। और उसके अंदर हमने कहा था कि इसके अंदर वो है माइक्रोसॉफ्ट का जो है एक्टिव डायरेक्टरी, एक्टिव एडी एक्टिव डायरेक्टरी माइक्रोसॉफ्ट इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ डायरेक्टरी। सही है, ये हमने बेसिक चीज़ें पढ़ी थी। सही है, तो ADDS एक्टिव डायरेक्टरी डोमेन सर्विसेज, एक्टिव डायरेक्टरी की अदर सर्विसेज भी हैं। सही है, डोमेन सर्विसेज जो है दैट इज बेसिकली देखो ADDS NS related services, there are other services also in active directory, but मेन चीज़ है कि ये these services form the foundation for enterprise networks। सही है, आप अगर विंडोज ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम रन कर रहे हो, दिस इज द कोर फाउंडेशन वेयर यू विल स्टोर ऑल योर आइडेंटिटी इंफॉर्मेशन, ऑल योर यूजर इंफॉर्मेशन, एवरीथिंग बेसिकली। दिस इज हाउ यू रन योर एंटरप्राइज नेटवर्क्स बेसिकली, राइट। तो अब उसके अंदर हमने क्या स्टोर किया हुआ है, उसके अंदर स्टोर किया हुआ है यूजर इन्फो अकाउंट्स, कंप्यूटर अकाउंट्स, ग्रुप्स, among other things, right? There are other things also, very sophisticated things as well. So, yeah. And based on that also we can drive policies। ये user है, they are in a specific group, this group can do this thing, this cannot do this thing, these are a bunch of groups, these are power users or admins, they can do these things, they cannot do these things, so and so forth, right? We can apply all sort of policies। जो हम Azure policy देख रहे हैं, जो हमने देखी थी, it is sort of very much like this also, right? तो उसके बाद बेसिकली सिंस इट इज लाइक अ डेटाबेस, बट अब जो रेगुलर डेटाबेस है दैट इज सिटिंग इन अ डेटाबेस सिस्टम, राइट, इट यूजेस LDAP, बट इन आवर केस अ डायरेक्टरी सिस्टम यूजेस LDAP। जो SQL सर्वर के अंदर डेटाबेस होते हैं दे यूजेस SQL टू क्वेरी। ये जो डेटाबेसेस हैं इन डायरेक्टरी सिस्टम्स दे यूज LDAP टू क्वेरी and to insert information, right? LDAP is used to insert information, to query information, to do whatever, right? And we can take a look at LDAP queries also. For example, if you take a look, for example, LDAP queries. So yeah, query example. For example, somebody has put this thing. So yeah, you can use this, and this is how the queries are formed. Okay, right? So yeah, ये क्या, ये query what is so yeah. ये वो कह रहे हैं ऑब्जेक्ट कैटेगरी पर्सन, ऑब्जेक्ट क्लास इज यूजर, पासवर्ड क्लास एट 0 and various different some other things, right? And then it tells you, for example, ये आपने query की है, ये एक्टिव डायरेक्टरी का इंटरफेस है। सही है, so this is actually getting all the people जिनका password is set to never expired। It's not very straightforward, right? We need to understand this, but a lot of time we don't need to understand the low level stuff of the query, but just giving you this idea that how does the LDAP queries work and LDAP work। ये एक इंटरफेस है LDAP का, और माइक्रोसॉफ्ट ने उसको आपको इंटरफेस दिया हुआ है to do the LDAP queries। सही है, I'll add this point also over here, LDAP queries। सही है, so just to give you an example of protocol and the queries। सही है, जिसके अंदर और queries हैं, and you will understand these, what is SAM account name, user account control, various different things, these are different attributes। सही है, ये देखो उसने PowerShell के अंदर उसने वो किया हुआ है LDAP का query डाली हुई है। सही है, get AD user and the filter for LDAP is this one। तो AD user के साथ वो filter sends the LDAP query to the active directory। सही है, so there are various different things basically you can do when you work with LDAP, but the point is for us to understand directory is an enterprise database, it uses LDAP v3 protocol to do any kind of interaction with it। so yeah, और इस database के अंदर user accounts, computer accounts, groups। computer account mean for example अगर आप यहाँ पे देखो, अगर मैं system में जाऊँ यहाँ पे अपने let's say system, you will see over here let me see if I can find out। अगर यहाँ पे आप देखोगे domain और work group। सही है, sorry, मैं पे दिखाना चाह रहा हूँ कि where it is joined to the Azure AD. Let's see. No, I don't want to show this. Anyway, I'll take a look कहाँ पे इसका वो है क्या कहते हैं. Let me see accounts के अंदर, maybe it is over here. यहाँ पे I think this is over here. So yeah, you can see it is connected to Azure AD. So yeah, so I can join my machine and be administrated using my organization, right? So this was the beauty. Before it was very problematic. मैंने घर में format कर लिया PC और I got a new PC. I need to connect. I need to do VPN. I need to do various different things. But now using Azure AD, it's all cloud-based, right? Management is going on. So anyway, no need to go into these things too much. But the idea is computers are also stored in this thing. Kyun? Because when I'm logging into this computer information is stored in the Azure AD. A lot of policies automatically get applied, right? If I go into this thing, for example, यहाँ पे देखो it says managed by your organization. Why? Because they can control software, they can control all of these settings, what I can do and what I cannot do, right? I can go into settings, there will be some settings which will be grayed out. So everything is being governed by the policies of my organization. This is the beauty of this, right? This is happening through Active Directory. They know that this person, when logs in, he's part of these users and in these domain, and these policies will get applied on it, on this person, right? So you do this on Active Directory level, automatically all these policies get applied, right? This is the extremely, nice and very sophisticated way usage of directories. So yeah, this is everything is being controlled by my organization, right? As you can see, this is connected to Azure AD, and from there, these policies are coming. So yeah. So Azure AD, we'll come to that one. We have discussed this already. But the point is, this is what you do with directories. So yeah. Let's see if there's another nice on the simpler article on the LDAP part, right? Okay, so it's directly this one. I'm trying to see if there's they can do this one using lightweight LDAP access protocol. So this is ये उन्होंने वो किया हुआ basically to do the from the programming perspective, right? You can do in C, C++. सारी APIs Windows के अंदर built in actually for all these things. So yeah. ये इनके I think some people have written also. So it's जो administrators होते हैं who deal with directories, they do a lot of these things, right? And it discusses how these queries work, what are the different things, and आपको person चाहिए, कौन सी class चाहिए, various different things. It talks about how to write the queries, right? This is from Microsoft actually, a very old article actually. So yeah. Anyway, don't want to go into detail, but just want to show you, right, how things work. तो हमने कहा था ये देखो installing अब ADDS जो है domain services, and we said ADDS is on premises. Please be very clear. हमने कहा था Active Directory Domain Services is the name for the on-premises directory services. So yeah, and a lot of these things you can do from Azure AD and Azure ADDS as well, right? And again, I can install applications automatically. A lot of applications get installed automatically on our machines, right? They put the policy in Active Directory, right? That for these group of people, these applications should get installed. And when we log in, automatically those applications get pushed on our machines automatically, right? They can put certificates, they can put policies and various different things. So this is the way to control the whole organization, right? This is how you control everything in your organization, right? Active Directory. Active Directory, again, I don't want to go into the details, right? But main thing is, how do you there are logical components, There's a schema, domains, trees. We don't need to know about these things. If you want to know, you can go and read about these things a little bit more. I don't want you guys to go into these ones right now. A little bit more advanced topics. Same thing over here. This is physical components, right? जो basically they're part of your servers हैं जिसमें domain controllers हैं, data stores and all these things, right? Read only domain controller. Again, no need to go into the details of these things, right? I just want to show you there are different components. You can read about this more if you want to go into Windows Server administration. This is part for those people, but right now just want to give you very high level. There are certain things, right, like this. Now when you talk about domain, Active Directory domain services, right? We said domain services. It's basically एक organization के अंदर it's a logical container to hold these three things, right? Active Directory domain services, ये एक domain है उसका, and domain is like, for example, this was our domain CS4037.local. Lot of time we do this thing, like for example, let's say PIA के जो online domain that is PAIC, so could be the internal domain is PIC.local, right? Let's say Bata hai, Bata.local could be the local domain, internal domain where all the users are created, right? So based on that, we create users, computers and groups, right? In a domain. They belong to a domain. जिस तरह मैंने बताया था Active Directory का, यहाँ पे हमने जो domain register किया था यहाँ पे, if you look at it, I'm showing you Azure Active Directory. Concepts are similar, right? If I go to custom domain names, I can go over here and say custom domain, and I can say, let's say, okay. Or okay, Raji, please make sure you can verify this one. So yeah, and of course it will not verify. We have to do some settings and all that, right? But regardless, it'll tell you unverified. And if it's unverified, you cannot really use it. How you cannot use it? If I come and try to create a user, let's see what happens if I say new user. So you must demonstrate your domain ownership, okay? You can see it doesn't show up over here. Unless it's verified, it will not allow you to use and create users in that domain. So yeah, that is the main thing. Anyway, I don't want to go into too much into detail, just giving you high levels of main points over here. See, our domain provides authentication authorization. Authentication means ID password checks, and could be some other things as well. And authorization means can he do this? And a lot of time this authorization is simply, does he belong to this group, right? We check those kind of things, and it can give you that whether he belongs to some group or not, right? But again, provides you authentication and authorization services, basically. This is the point of domain. This is the fundamental backbone of organizations, domain services, right? Forest is kind of like, we discussed, like management group. You can have multiple domains in a forest, right? Again, I can have multiple domains, like let's say I have a 4G Foundation, and I have multiple organizations that run under, for example, umbrella of establishment, or an umbrella of under army, armed forces, right? They have these organizations. They could be all under one forest, right? And you can have multiple domains basically in a forest, right? And you can have master domain, you can have child domains also, right? And you can have root domain also. So child domains are from this one. I can have various different ones. Seattle, I can have Houston, Dallas, different organizations. I can have domains for different cities, different organizations, so on and so forth, right? Again, security boundary, replication boundary. I can replicate different information, different places, okay? So if you have complex environment, lot of organizations, lot of offices, different domains, I can create trust between them. And that trust is very similar to what we are doing in Azure AD as well, right? Where we can, where Seattle can trust the person authenticated from, let's say houston.contoso.com. Lahore.contoso.com can trust Karachi.contoso.com, for example, right? We do these, we create these trust relationships, right? These trust relationship. कि यार अब वहाँ डोमेन से आ रहे हो, ये हमारा भाई डोमेन ही है, इट्स अंडर दिस फॉरेस्ट ऑल्सो, सो आई कैन ट्रस्ट यू, and somewhere I don't trust you, I don't trust you at all, or I can have a one-way trust. That means this can trust that guy, but that guy doesn't trust him, right? So you can do these kind of relationships based on organization needs. So yeah, you can do these kind of things. And you can see also Azure AD, very similar concepts are coming also over there. And this is how you create users. और ये देखो कितनी चीजें यहाँ पे हैं यूजर के ऊपर, सही है? ये आप एक्टिव डायरेक्टरी के अंदर यूजर अकाउंट बना रहे हो, names, login name. This is another what we call SAM account name. No need to worry about this. Protection, different information we are storing. So basically anything and everything about the user is being stored in the user account. Member of any of the groups I can set. So yeah, profile, policies I want to apply on this specific user. So yeah, I can have password. होता है ना कभी कभार when you go into, for example, पहली दफा Google account आपको मिले from your organization, you go there, it tells you you must change password. This is the setting basically in the directory, and it's the same directory over there also, very similar stuff in Google also, right? So this is driven from your directories, these kind of settings, right? User must change password at next log on, right? And password never expires. You can also do user cannot change password. You must come to the admin all the time. A lot of time this is not used, but regardless, you can, if somebody wants to, you have this option, right? You can see also smart card is required. जो मैं कल example दी थी, you must have smart card and it must authenticate your smart card before it lets you log in. This is all controlled through your user account and the policies, right? Lot of these policies you don't have to apply over here. You can set the policy. You can set the policy and apply the policies. So it takes care of a lot of these settings instead of applying this yourself. So yeah, this is how organizations run and manage their security and identities basically, right? It's very critical to understand, and you can see how sophisticated controls they have in these things.
Excuse me, sir.
Sir,
सर की लेक्चर की रिकॉर्डिंग करनी और करनी नहीं है.
मैंने की हुई ऑलरेडी, मैंने वो आई एम डूइंग इट डिफरेंटली. ये आपको रेड बॉक्स नजर आ रहा है ना, एक्चुअली ग्रीन वाला. आई एम डूइंग द रिकॉर्डिंग, वो ना फिक्र करो आप. वो मैं रेजोल्यूशन चेक कर रहा था. राइट
सर, लास्ट स्लाइड में आपने मेंशन किया था ग्रुप मेंबरशिप in user when we are defining user object ना, तो that group membership is जिस डायरेक्टरी से यूजर ये बिलोंग करेगा आफ्टर गेटिंग रजिस्टर्ड.
हाँ मैं दिखाता हूँ,
उसकी डिटेल्स हमने ऐड करनी है.
हाँ मैं भी जा रहा हूँ ग्रुप्स के ऊपर. आई विल शो यू द ग्रुप पार्ट. I will clarify the group part. I'm going. That's the next part is the groups. Then we have something called groups. I mean, I could have a group called sales manager. Just I can add all the sales managers. So yeah. And you can see there's something called security and versus distribution. Security group hota hai where I can go into, for example, anywhere in my file system or anywhere in my portal or somewhere, and I can say, for example, let's say this is the mera file system hai. So yeah, I can go and I can go into properties, security, and over here I can say, for example, I can add groups. So yeah, I cannot do over here, for example, but you can see there's a group called users. This is a security group. Anybody who is in users, I can give him permission to do whatever. So yeah, and this is what we do. And they work not only on file systems, they work in the websites as well. So I can go onto my website in the security, I can say, I can pick all my domain groups. These are security groups. So it will check, that's the authorization part. It will ask that website, it'll ask the Active Directory, is this person in this group? If it is, I'll let him in. If not, I will not let him in, right? This is what happens. Lot of stuff is given to you for free by these kind of frameworks and from these directories, right? So this is how you do authorizations. So a lot of time, instead of adding individual people to each different place, what we do is we add them into a group and we use that group in different places, right? This is how organizations work. तो ये अब इस तरह पे ग्रुप मैनेजर सेल्स मैनेजर एंड यू कैन सी मेंबर्स के अंदर आई कैन ऐड एनीवन. सही है. This what happens. And lot of time this thing is also we can automate. I don't want to go into that advanced stuff, but in organizations actually in Active Directory that part is also automated. How? Because what happens is let me open this one back again. Sorry. And how is that? Basically HR के अंदर सबसे पहले यूजर आता है. When HR के अंदर यूजर आता है then we automate that part के automatically pick कर ले, क्योंकि HR के अंदर रोल भी मिल रहा होता है उसको, किस रोल के ऊपर आए and all those things, right? Automatically we can create the user, automatically we can create basically put him into some group and all that, right? And these are called identity management system. जिसका जो Microsoft का जो system है Microsoft Identity Manager. This is one of the very widely used system actually that does these kind of things, automate this kind of things, right? To yeah. तो ये HR system से लेके
सर ये सिक्योरिटी और डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन जो ग्रुप टाइप्स हैं दो, इसमें डिफरेंस ये है कि वो बेस्ड ऑन द रोल, अगर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन मतलब ग्रुप्स बनाए जाते हैं दैट इज फ्रॉम सिक्योरिटी ग्रुप टाइप, और अगर रोल बेस्ड की जाए ग्रुपिंग तो दैट इज डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन. थोड़ा सा इसको रिपीट कर दें.
नहीं, मैंने अभी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन का तो बताया नहीं मैंने अभी. डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ग्रुप इज जस्ट एन ईमेल ग्रुप टू डिस्ट्रीब्यूट स्टफ. सो वो क्या करेगा, वो कह देगा सेल्स मैनेजर एट समथिंग एट योर डोमेन एट contoso.com. सही है. तो आप जब उनको उस डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ग्रुप को भेजेंगे ना ईमेल, उन सारों को मिल जाएगी. दैट्स ऑल इट इज. सही है. इज टू डिस्ट्रीब्यूट इंफॉर्मेशन एंड दिस इज टू सिक्योर इंफॉर्मेशन. सही है. आप बताते हो मैं ये सिक्योरिटी के लिए कर रहा हूं कि मैं इसके लिए. अगर आप डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ग्रुप बनाते हो ना, ये ऑटोमेटिकली आपके ईमेल सिस्टम के अंदर एक ईमेल एड्रेस बना देगा इसके लिए, एंड यू विल ऐड दीस पीपल इनटू दोस थिंग्स. सही है. दिस द डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ग्रुप. सो वी हैव फॉर एग्जांपल जिस तरह आपके आते हैं ऑल स्टूडेंट्स, दैट्स अ डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ग्रुप. एवरीबody is there. सही है. All CS4037 students. सही है. That's a distribution group. All CS4037 section A groups, section A students. That's a distribution group. सही है. Email system के अंदर you have this thing and you can control this thing from Active Directory. You can create the group, and when you say distribution, automatically in the linked email system it creates the required email and add all these people. So you can control these guys from the Active Directory. So you can see how central these things is. Active Directory is that can control deep integration with your email systems and do all these things as well. So yeah, I don't want to go into this one group scopes and all that. Main चीज यहाँ पे है is to group people based on security, based on distribution, and distribution is much more widely used, right? You can have, as I've discussed, and you will see in your basically all you can do all year 1 students, year 2 students. You can do this based on your needs, right? And you can have all sort of different group students in different groups and people in different groups, right? All CS faculty, all EE faculty, all management faculty. You can create, and this is how it is done very, very widely, right? To send communication and for all these kind of needs, right? You can do these kind of things. So this is the distribution groups, and security is to control the security. अब ये नहीं हो सकता कि मैं यहाँ पे जाऊँ और मैं कहूँ जी यहाँ पे मैंने security group बनाया हुआ है और यहाँ मैं permission security group को distribution group को add करने की कोशिश करूँ. It will not happen, because distribution group is simply an email. In an email group, basically, there's nothing more. I cannot add over here, so I must create a security group to add it over here to give the permission. So yeah, and you can see your members and all those things. Maybe we can do time permitting later on. I can show you actual domain controller, how to create the domain controller, how do you manage domain services, so on and so forth. So yeah.
सर अगर हमने एक ईमेल ग्रुप बना दिया फॉर एग्जांपल बैच 19 के स्टूडेंट्स का, so we can add them into a security group based on different policies कि ये वाला जो group है ये इसको ये permissions है, these people can do this, इस
No.
base पे हम उस group
ये group will not go into this one. So yeah, this will not go into this one. Security group can go, I think, into other groups. You can do hierarchy of security groups, but email groups will not go into this one. So yeah, again, understand distribution group is just an email address. So yeah,
yes,
it's nothing more actually. It's for you to facilitate distribution of communication. That's all it is, right? So these two, ये बेसिकली ग्रुप बनाएगा एक्टिव डायरेक्टरी के अंदर, ये बनाएगा आपके ईमेल सिस्टम के अंदर बेसिकली, राइट? It registers in Active Directory but creates the email or what we call the mailbox in that one. So in anybody who sends email to this distribution group, तो क्या होगा, उन सबको ईमेल चली जाएगी. So do no relationship कि आप इसको क्या कर सकते हो. You can do various things in security groups, but this is simply, this goes distribution करते हो, you're telling it please go into my email system and create a mailbox or email address for this thing. So yeah, and users के ऊपर ये आप इसके अंदर भी आप देखोगे, यहाँ पे मैं इसके अंदर जा रहा हूँ, यहाँ पे see the UPN login. Let me see if it यहीं से ये email भी बना सकता है basically. You can do this one if it's integrated, right? You can create the email address also. But basically, yeah. So this one is basically from the group perspective, it will do this one. See? यहाँ पे I don't want to discuss OU, but it's also a very sophisticated thing in directories, right? Organization unit. But I don't want to go into this one, right? आपकी कई policies control होती हैं इससे, but I don't want to go make it more complex, right? More detailed. तो हमने दो चीजें देखी थी. हम we are looking, if you look at domain services, हमने कहा था users हैं, groups हैं, और फिर हमारे क्या है, computer objects. We are coming to the third thing, and this is a computer object basically, right? So lot of time, why do we need computer? Computer objects are needed because also जब मैं लॉग इन होता हूँ इसके ऊपर, lot of time जो मैंने चीजें ऑथेंटिकेट करनी होती है, my this computer is registered with my organization. So yeah, I can access many different things because my computer is allowed to browse the network using my identity, right? So this computer is authenticated. जब मैंने इसको ज्वाइन किया था Azure Active Directory में सर्टिफिकेट आया था, and when it tries to join different services or tries to go, based on that it gets authenticated. Yes, you're allowed to come into the network and do various different things, right? If I want to go to different network addresses, I am allowed to go through this computer. I will not be prompted for various different things, right? So this is what happens. You basically ensure secure communication and secure access from these devices. Yeah? And again, you can do certain policies. Lot of time हम जो program run कर रहे होते हैं and his computer is going to do some query or something, it says, okay, I will accept this thing from this computer object. If you are trying to do this, I can, and you can do author, and you can see member also, right? It has certain rights and very different policies, what I want to install, and various different things, right? I can do these kind of things. So you control these things as well. Yeah. So this was the third critical component coming into as part of your Active Directory domain services, right? On premises, and of course, अब हम देखेंगे क्या differences हैं उसके जो on the cloud directories हैं, ठीक है? But giving you the background where this whole thing started from, right? It started from Azure Active Directory domain services, Active Directory domain services, right? What we mentioned on premises, right? This is the starting point of everything, where this thing started. अब जब ये चीज हो गई, then we need to come to Azure Active Directory. Yeah. अच्छा, अब ये चीजें तो हो गई. Now Azure AD is the directory in our cloud. How do we get information over there? Microsoft then built tools called Azure AD Connect. AD Connect क्या कहता है? आपकी जो on premises Active Directory है, synchronize users, groups, computers maybe, and some whatever information are in the Azure Active Directory. So yeah, Then you can sign in from anywhere else in Azure Active Directory and use all your applications. So yeah, हमने कल देखा था, these applications are registered with Azure AD. That means मैं जाके Salesforce में जाऊंगा या SAP की SaaS application में जाऊंगा, it will redirect me over here. I will use the same credentials that I've been using on premises to log into these applications just as securely. So yeah. तो बेसिकली यूजर ग्रुप्स कॉन्टैक्ट से Azure AD में भेजता है बेसिकली. सही है. तो सॉरी, ये जो इंफॉर्मेशन है सही है, सॉरी मैंने उल्टी कर दी. ये Azure AD Connect, सॉरी दिस वाज फॉर द क्लाउड सिंग, मैंने उल्टी इंफॉर्मेशन डाल दी, अपडेट दिस वन. सही है. ये AD Connect है एसेंशियली, ये यूजर ग्रुप्स डालते हैं आपके, एंड ऑल्सो जो मैंने बताया था पासवर्ड हैश को भी सिंक्रोनाइज करता है. ठीक है. इट इंश्योर्स एवरीथिंग इज सिंक्रोनाइज्ड. दिस इज क्लाउड सिंक. आई विल रिमूव क्लाउड सिंक. क्या करता है बेसिकली? तो ओरिजिनल वाज AD Connect, न्यू वन इज क्लाउड सिंक. व्हाट क्लाउड सिंक डज? Cloud Sync basically allows you to do the same thing but control it from the portal. You do all the settings of synchronization from the portal, from Azure portal. So you put an agent on premises, it can talk to your Active Directory, but you control it, all the settings, all the synchronization from portal. That is the main difference. उसका क्या फायदा है? उसका फायदा ये है, you don't have to set up virtual machine or a server, install softwares, and do all the configuration on premises. वो कहता है छोटा सा एजेंट डाल दो, we will control everything from cloud. अब क्लाउड में बताओ. So this is like agent based configuration, right? आपने छोटा सा एजेंट आपने यहाँ पे इंस्टॉल कर दिया, and all the configuration you configure on the Azure portal, and it pushes that to that agent. Agent कहता है ये configuration information है, this is XML or JSON file, work on this one, right? So this is what happens, right? And this is how many things from Azure gets controlled. This same architecture where you put the agent, you control, you set up the configuration online, and then when you save it, it sends it to the agent, right? And then it does all the synchronization. This is the latest stuff which is called Cloud Sync. ये information वो हो गई है, reverse हो गई है. Cloud Sync information is this, right? This one. इसका agent है basically, instead of the full application running on servers, right? And it does all the synchronization. But main thing right now is to understand the key takeaway from this one is whether it's AD Connect, which is a full server running with the synchronization software, or Cloud Sync, the new thing, which is a small agent controlled by Azure AD, controlled from Azure portal. Main thing is the Azure AD Connect technology is the one that synchronizes all your information from on-premises to the cloud, right? And once cloud में अगर आपका ID, password, आपके groups चीजें आ गई, and then you can simply register your SaaS applications, and you can use the same login information to log into any of these applications. जिस तरह कल मैंने दिखाया था. सही है. जिस तरह ये हमारी ऑनलाइन एप्लीकेशन है, फॉर एग्जांपल ये हमारा मेन पोर्टल है. सही है. MSW. You can see I'm logged in. This is based on Active Directory, right? Azure Active Directory. It is synchronized with that one. It is synchronized. ये हमारा मेन पोर्टल है. This is a SaaS application in Office 365. This is working with Azure AD. This is exactly what is happening over here also, right? I was logged in, और ये मेरा session है इसके अंदर already. I was not even prompted for anything. Yeah. So yeah, I can see all my everything regarding my online presence and online profile and everything, right? I can do this thing. Yeah. It talks about various different things and all that. Yeah. It pulls my whole information basically. So yeah. So the idea is again, this is how it makes it so much. I'm sitting from my home and I'm able to do all this stuff, right? This is the beauty of this basically, right? of this whole architecture and how seamless it is, right? So this is how you synchronize. So हमने system बनाया था पहले on premises. Then we said, okay, how do we synchronize this? We use Azure AD Connect to get everything into Azure Active Directory. So, yeah. And this is where we started off yesterday. So I added a little bit more information to get you, how do we got to this point? So yeah. तो ये हमने सारा कुछ किया था basically. So yeah, इसके अंदर where we had authentication, single sign-on, which is all this working. So yeah. So this is what it's providing. Yeah. And you can see Azure AD in the device management here. And you can see I don't have to go to my on-premises Active Directory to join my machine to on-premises Active Directory. I can just do this on Azure AD. जैसा अभी मैंने दिखाया था. If I go into system, from system I go into, let's see, accounts. And from accounts, I can do this one. It tells you is joined to Azure AD, okay, and joined by this person. So yeah, this is what happens और उसकी basis पे that, and this part is basically this one, device management. So yeah, suppose registration of devices. So now Microsoft is controlling this one, right? What I can do and what I cannot do, and what is allowed and what is not allowed. And this is, you can see over here, it tells you managed by your organization. If I go into settings, there are certain things, for example, tell you what I can, what I cannot do, and something will be blocked out basically, right? It does that as well, right? Each and everything is controlled by policy, right? So these policies in the browser, in every application, Microsoft can control, right? This is the extreme power of these things, right? Each and everything over here, it will tell you what they want to control, what they cannot. But I mean, you have to mix flexibility with, for example, what you want to control, right? So right now they can remotely wipe out anything that is being synchronized from the work profile, right? They can wipe this out. For example, wherever my work profile is, they can literally, wipe it out. Just like Android and other devices as well. When I join to Microsoft Intune, this is the Intune, right? It is controlled through Azure AD. So Intune se aap policies karte ho. Think of, anyway, I don't want to go into the detail of that one. Right now, just think of it. Azure AD is controlling these things, right? And remotely, they can wipe out anything wherever my work information is, they can wipe it out completely, right? This is what one of the key controls they want to have. इसीलिए Android के ऊपर inshallah when you join organizations you will have different policy, work profile and your personal profile. Work profile, my company can wipe it out remotely, right? That thing. So this is what device management is. And this is what we talk about the application management yesterday of registering and all these things, right? With the SaaS applications and your own applications for the single sign-on, right? This one portal is actually running on what we call SharePoint Online, right? SharePoint Microsoft का portal था, उसके अंदर this is developed, and this you get part of Office 365, you get SharePoint Online as well. Some document libraries, various different things you can do this one, right? And this one allows you to do these kind of things as well. ये SharePoint Online की ये directories हैं और folders हैं और जो libraries हैं, and you can synchronize these things basically, right? For the various different things. ये हमारी internal security trainings हैं, internal Kubernetes की trainings हैं, for example. And on, right? You can see the advanced Kubernetes training internal because it's very heavily used internally as well. You can do these kind of things, basically. तो ये हमने पढ़ा था कल. So this is, you can see Azure AD Connect sync, right? On-premises AD, that is ADDS, right? This is the one. Now you should have a little bit more clear picture, right? और ये Azure AD Connect का server है या AD Connect Cloud Sync है, whatever it is, it sends the information to AD. Now this was the extra piece that I added. Why do we need this third part, right? So ये मैं दिखा दूं इसका basically. This is basically the Azure Directory Domain Services. So yeah. So there are certain things that Azure AD does not do. Azure AD, it does not do. And I told you yesterday, it talks on HTTPS protocol. So yeah, what if you have an application that needs to talk to directory using LDAP? So yeah, तो वो कह रहे हैं कि Azure ADDS जो है, it provides you a PaaS service that talks over LDAP. So yeah, if you need that, you must use Azure ADDS. There are other services like group policy. This is one of the most powerful features of directory services or Azure, Microsoft Active Directory Domain Services, group policies. वो जो मैंने पॉलिसी का दिखाया था ना कि कौन सी पॉलिसीज अप्लाई होती हैं, जो मेरा ब्राउजर भी कंट्रोल हो रहा है, सॉफ्टवेयर भी कंट्रोल हो रहा है, एनीथिंग आई डू कैन बी कंट्रोल थ्रू ग्रुप पॉलिसीज, राइट, फ्रॉम डायरेक्टरी. Those policies are not compatible with Azure AD. So if you need to have same policies on Azure, then you need to have Azure AD domain services. Again, exact same domain services, but given to you as a PaaS service, where you can do policies, LDAP, and so on and so forth. There are other applications that need some enhanced authentication protocols like Kerberos and NTLM. These two are supported by Active Directory. I will not go into the details of this one, right? But if you need, and there are a lot of applications, for example, like SQL Server and some other applications that need Kerberos authentication or NTLM authentication, then you must have domain services, Active Directory Domain Services, ADDS. तो उसके लिए उन्होंने माइक्रोसॉफ्ट ने आपको ये PaaS सर्विस दी है, Azure AD Domain Services, right? So these are 3-4 critical things which are needed for this one. So yeah, I will add this one as well over here. So these things are not supported by Azure Active Directory. So you must have Active Directory Domain Services to provide very similar services and setup as on-premises. For mostly authentication, third-party authorization, authentication, Azure AD is what you need. But for other applications where you need these kind of things, your internally hosted, your cloud-hosted systems and virtual machines where you need these kind of things, you need to have Azure ADDS. Okay, this part you need to have this. Now, why did I put this one in this sequence, or why they have put in this sequence? Because to synchronize ADDS information, you must synchronize it to Azure AD first, and from there it will synchronize this to Azure ADDS. ADDS does not directly synchronize to Azure ADDS. It does not do that. Okay, and you can see also Azure ADDS synchronizes from Azure AD. Why they have done it like this, I'm not too sure why they couldn't go, but maybe see, this was already solid and properly configured. So this was the new service that was added, so they added as part of this one, and they had I think good reasons for doing this thing, right? But anyway, right now for us to understand is this is the way it works. If you need to go deeper into, you can do this one. Okay, then it talks about, for example, these things, right? You can see the same thing.
So can you repeat कि Azure ADDS जो है, इससे ये हमें कब रिक्वायर्ड होता है? अभी आपने एक चीज मेंशन की थी, you cannot do this with Azure AD.
हाँ, ये देखो 4 चीजें ऊपर से है. इसमें सबसे पहली चीज थी LDAP. If there are applications that need to talk to directory with LDAP, you cannot do that with Azure AD. Okay? Azure AD पे everything happens over HTTPS protocol, not on LDAP. Yeah. If you need to talk to directory over LDAP, if you have a system that does that, you must use Azure ADDS. Okay, नंबर 1. नंबर 2, आपकी अगर these are the enhanced authentication protocols, Kerberos and TLM. तो अगर आपको ये चाहिए, and there are some systems like SQL Server, they require these things to be there, then you must use Azure ADDS. So yeah, the group policies also you cannot do in Azure ADDS. Sorry, Azure AD. You must use Azure ADS. The group policies में दिखाई थी इसके अंदर. If you look at it, let me show you. If you don't, if you recall, I'll go back. See policies over here, right? You will see policies. These are policies basically, right? That apply. You cannot do these things, for example, in Azure AD. It has some other things, but these policies, for example, I have these policies. I want to bring them on the cloud. You must use Azure ADS. Okay. Also, यहाँ पे मैंने क्या किया हुआ है? यहाँ पे जो मैंने किया था, यहाँ पे मैंने किया था, if you look at it, accounts, it said Azure AD, it is connected to Azure AD. But there are systems, for example, they said, I don't want to be connected to Azure AD. I want to be connected to ADDS. I do not support this, or this doesn't provide me all the services. I must connect to ADDS, domain services. Then you must have Azure ADDS. And this is what it's talking about, that if you need domain join, right? If you need these things, this is domain joining. When you want to join to the domain, हमने पढ़ा था ना पहले, users, groups or computers. If computer says I want to join to a domain, right? Then you need to use Azure ADDS. So yeah. Again, I want to keep it high level. These are when you go into practical thing, you will see the value of these things and why. But there's a big reasoning behind each and everything, right? What works, what doesn't work with something, right? Main thing is to provide the compatibility of the same environment that you have on premises. Azure ADDS was brought in, right? It is a very widely used service as well. So yeah. तो ये motivation है basically इसकी Azure ADDS कि if you need these kind of things, and it talks about some other things as well, right? See, Azure ADDS integrates with your existing Azure AD tenant. It's talking about this part, right? It's this part it's talking about, right? और ये मैंने बताया था कल भी से, ये ऑन प्रेमिसेस है, AD कनेक्ट से आपने सारी इंफॉर्मेशन सिंक्रोनाइज की. We discussed this part yesterday, and the cloud applications, all the SaaS applications can go over here. So yeah, can authenticate against this, and you can use them. So yeah, we discussed this part. I don't want to go over this one today. MFA, we discussed this part, nothing really. I just wanted to make sure that we cover the directory part a little bit more, so we have some background information. So yeah, B2B, B2C, we discussed this one as well last time. Yes, this is an important part as well, right? Conditional access. आप जब cloud पे login हो रहे हो, there are requirements where company says, I want to control this, that there are certain signals, make sure they map to what I need, only then allow them to move forward. Okay? Which is what? You must log in from certain area. If you're not in that area, do not allow. Application, if you're using this thing, or where you're logging from, which device you're logging from, which application you're using, and various different things, right? And so it gets lot of different signals, and then based on the conditional access, so we have something called conditional access. I'll show you how conditional access, what it looks like. Azure AD conditional access. It's a premium Active Directory feature. So yeah. So idea is, right, you have signals, you have decision, and you have enforcement basically, right? The same picture basically. So the various different things you can do. आप किसी एप्लीकेशन को एक्सेस कर रहे हो, so you can have different conditional access policies. This is what we do a lot of time is, आप अगर you can come into Azure. Please can you mute? आप अगर VPN कर रहे हो Azure के अंदर, you can have a conditional access policy who can VPN and who cannot VPN, who can do MFA, who cannot do MFA, right? Various different things. So you can have besides ID, password, and MFA, you can have very complex conditions that you can set for logging in, right? And sometimes it can say you logged in just now from this area of the world. Now you're logging in from this area. I'm denying this one, or do this thing extra. I'm going to let somebody know, right? And then I'm allowing this, but we have detectives. Please provide extra information, on and on. So you can see how sophisticated this system is, this Azure Active Directory. Okay? You can do these kind of things. So this is the conditional access part, right? What happens basically in this one? This is one of the very commonly used premium feature in Azure Active Directory. So you can see these kind of systems are pretty much impossible to build, and how much value it provides from security information, from securing your organization's different applications and different your data and everything, right? Where you can apply these things before somebody can access, various different things. And this is what we have seen already, right? जब हम वो कर लेते हैं ना यूजर को अपने पोर्टल को जो हमने कहा था कि मैं इसको करना चाह रहा हूँ अपनी डायरेक्टरी के साथ ऐड, what happens is I can then pick people from my own directory and give them access. So yeah, if I go into this one and I have my own Active Directory and I have my own domain and I have my own people over here, right? Then I can, for example, if I want to give these guys permission, I can go over there, right? I create users over here, for example. I can create a user, for example. I can do this one, right? जब मैंने ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की मैं यूजर क्रिएट कर लिया, सही है. अब what I can do is I can go into my Azure. Now it is linked to my directory. What I can do is I can add the people, right? I can say that I can pick somebody from my own organization, select members. Okay, you can see I just created this guy, and so this is the beauty of directories, attaching it to directory. I can pick my own person or my own users from over here. So yeah. So this is like your, if you're sitting in home, you have your own, who the people are, the members and the residents of this home. You can give them different access, or you can give them different what we call roles, responsibilities. It's very much like this, right? You belong to a one directory and you can give different people different access. And of course, वो directory के अंदर जब आप add करते हो invited users, you see them as guests, right? If I come over here, if I want to give this role to someone, if I go with this one, I can see, right, that this is a guest user, right? It shows me this is a guest where this one is not a guest, right? This user is not a guest. So it shows you this thing also, that this distinction, that this guy belongs to your own directory, where this guy is coming from a different directory, right? It gives you these kind of clues as well. You can do these kind of things as well, right? You can see who belongs to your directory, who doesn't belong to your directory, right? And it gives you a distinction, very clear distinction. So you can give, for example, you don't make mistakes in giving them responsibilities, right? So this is one of the key reasons that we assign our subscription to our own directories. Okay. So this is how Azure Active Directory, हम यहाँ पे groups और वो करते हैं, and then I can manage these things, right? Same thing also. If I create a group over there, right? What I can do in this one is, so if I go over here, I go into Azure Active Directory, I can do groups, right? And what I do is I say security group, and you have 365. This is for the distribution group, right? Let's say 365. I will say Azure, let's say owners. Okay. If I go into this one, what I will do is I can say, for example, this is how it will be do with groups. Okay. I create a group. I added 2 people. Now what I will do in Azure. In Azure, if I go into resource group, let's say resource group, right? Let's say I have this one. How do we manage permission with groups? This is what we do, right? We do a role assignment, and I want to give, for example, owner. Instead of adding each person, I can say Azure owners. What was it? कौन सा मैंने अभी ग्रुप बनाया था? सॉरी, ग्रुप मैंने कौन सा बनाया था अभी? Azure owners. सही है. I want to give, यहाँ पे आके I can give, for example, all the owners. I've added them into the group. So now I can just add them, add the group. सही है. ये मेरा Azure owners आ गया. सही है. This is how you do these kind of things, right? Instead of basically adding individuals, we add them to a security group, and then we add the security group and give permission, so we don't have to manage individual people, right? This is the power of security groups, right? This is what I did. So if I go back over here, I do group, and I can say, for example, new groups. I can say 365. Okay. You can see also right away what happens, right? Gives me an email address, right? It never happened in the security group, but over here I got an email address. Okay. Okay. So this is what you see basically, right? Of course, मैंने किसी को ऐड नहीं किया इसके अंदर. Let me just refresh. It takes a little bit of time before it comes. But see, you can see these kind of things. कितनी powerful चीजें to manage the security properly. In organization, we rarely add people directly into these things. We add them into security groups, and then we add security groups in the right roles. Okay. So this is how this whole thing works. सही है. हम यहाँ पे users ऐड करते हैं, यहाँ पे groups ऐड करते हैं, यहाँ पे applications ऐड करते हैं, और ये चीज is centrally managing. यहाँ की सारी information we are putting it over here by giving the different rights and responsibilities in the subscription or the resource groups and various different things, right? This is how this whole thing works together. चलिए, so what is zero trust? The idea is essentially, right, that everything is, you don't get trust on anything. You don't get rights on anything. If somebody needs rights, you are given explicit rights on that thing. That is zero trust. You start with the idea that nobody is trusted. That is the idea. Okay. So this is what you want to do. Also, if anybody needs rights for small period of time, give them those rights for small period of time, not for all the time, right? So you have very specific rules and responsibility. Let me see just in time. You can see also in virtual machines, I want to show you something. Right, it's an Active Directory also. See, this is a conditional access. So yeah. I don't know if I have the license or not. वो कह रहे हैं Azure AD Premium लो, then you can do this one, and we can do the trial of that one, right? So we can create new policy. This is the conditional access policy जो हमने पढ़ी थी, सही है? So again, zero trust is essentially that we are basically giving only what we need. We explicitly provide permissions on each and everything. That's the concept. Nobody is trusted by default. You start with zero trust. That means nobody is trusted, right? So before क्या होता, हर चीज को लॉक इन करते थे. हमने हर चीज को टोटल चीज को लॉक इन नहीं किया हुआ. हमने हर एक के ऊपर उसके रोल्स रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी हमने जीरो पे सेट किए हुए. And from there we start. Who needs permission? जिस तरह Azure है. Azure के ऊपर nobody has it, right? We start off with the guy who created the subscription. He starts giving permission to whoever it needs based on the roles and responsibilities they need to have, right? Nothing more, right? Second key idea is इसके अंदर है least privilege. Don't give more permissions than needed. So yeah, this is called the idea of least privilege. ये इसके जो notes हैं उसके अंदर it's mentioned this thing, these points as well. So yeah, least privileges do not give. For example, right, I have somebody who is network administrator. Just because he's network administrator, I don't want to go and give him a contributor role. So yeah, I want to go and find is there something, for example, यहाँ पे इसने दिया हुआ, for example, let's see, is there a network contributor? A network contributor, right? So basically, if some is a networking guy, I want to give him just this role. And sometimes it's painful because he cannot see a lot of different things, right? But again, only give the role that somebody is needed for their work, nothing more. That is the idea of least privilege access. So yeah. Last but not least, so yeah, for the zero trust policy, we assume there is a breach happening. So yeah, we have an issue. We want to secure. That means what we want to do is from here to here, we want to make sure all the communication is secure, data address is secure, everything is secure, each data point is secure, right? जिस तरह फॉर एग्जांपल हमने घर को लॉकडाउन करने हैं, हम उसे कमरे लॉक करेंगे पहले, फिर उसका मेरी बड़ा कमरा लॉक करेंगे, then main door, then gate and all that, right? So you want to make sure everything is protected, right? In each and every area. We don't want to leave out anything. So and so forth. So the three main areas basically, right, इसके अंदर. That is idea offers, for example, that explicit permissions, verification, for example, right? And then least privileges, right? That is minimum privileges required to do the work. So yeah, and then you can see what we call is assume breach, right? That something has been breached. So when something has been breached, you want to secure every point, every way something is going to come into contact. You want to make sure that is क्या कहते हैं, so nothing spreads. So yeah, so every point is fully secured. जहाँ जहाँ आप connect कर रहे हो, make sure that point secures before it allows any connection, right? This is the idea of zero trust. Sorry, I will say secure. Every point of contact, and basically what else? For example, verify, for example, end-to-end encryption, right, etc. Yeah. So these are the three main policies of zero trust, right? Again, this is how you secure, and and you have on top of you Azure Active Directory and Active Directory domain services. We can allow and make sure everything is secured and you're authenticating and authorizing for everything, right? That's the idea of zero trust. And again, the next point is just finishing this one is, for example, defense in depth. They're layered approach, and you need to visualize, right, each and every point and make sure every layer is properly protected. Or you can talk about the, so physical security, we talked about it in the very beginning. This is the responsibility of the cloud provider, right? Then we come down identity and access. We said whether you have SaaS, PaaS, or IaaS, this is your responsibility to make sure what identity and access you are providing to each person, right? If you have a user that needs very minimum privileges and you give him a very high level identity and access, you can screw up everything, right? Then we start, this is the shared responsibility model in visualization, right? What we saw in the very beginning. Then you have parameter network. Somebody coming from outside, what does he see, right? This is ये हमारा email thread जा रहा है, मैं दिखाता हूँ अभी इसके ऊपर आजकल we are doing this thing. So I will show you what we're discussing with the vendor and all that. We are setting up the security and all that. Let's see if it comes up. Let's see. So yeah, this was an email thread with the organization, with a partner and everything, right? So you will see over here in this one what we are doing, just to give you some high level idea. If it comes up soon. So yeah, अब ये देखो, we have an application for all the outbound connection, right? We have all outbound, we have firewall. Outbound, it must go through firewall, right? This is our web application. It is making some outbound SAP connection, and we are saying it must go through firewall, because from firewall I can control which IP address it can go to, which URL it can go to. It's not dependent on basically on the application. I will say, please give me the URL that you want to go to. Only those will be allowed in firewall, right? You control the outbound communication. Only what is allowed, authorized, they can go into, right? So whether it's right, whether they want to janboosh the way or not, whatever, right? They cannot send the information to anywhere else. We can control. Incoming also, right? Incoming is application gateway. All the inbound URLs are coming through application gateway. It can protect application. It can protect all the communication coming in. Whoever is trying to reach, I can control bots if they are trying to attack, whatever it is. The first line of defense is this one, right? I'm controlling my parameter, first of all. So my parameter has application gateway and firewall. Going out is firewall, coming in is application gateway, right? And this is how we control. This is actually, if you look at it over here, Azure Firewall and application gateway. These are our two critical appliances for protecting the parameter, right? Let me do this one. And you will see the network architecture. Let me see. Yeah, see over here, ये जो हमने architecture कर रहा हूँ मैं यहाँ पे, this is over here. I will show you in parallel. So yeah, ये देखो. Outbound, going out is going through firewall, right? Coming in is coming in through the application gateway. हमारी अगर application run हो रही है, if somebody needs to come in, comes to application gateway. All communication is protected. This is going out, all the going out. This one, this area is completely protected. We control where it can go out, right? So whoever is talking to it, whoever it needs to talk to, completely protected on the parameter, right? Nobody can come and hit this virtual machine directly, right? This is how things work in an enterprise, right? And this is what we've been doing. यहाँ आपको दिखाऊंगा actual architecture में भी sometime. ये जो हमने configuration की है इसकी, जो appliances की हैं, and how we did the routing basically for these things, right? ये देखो ये route tables बन रहे हैं, the IP address, and so it's very critical to understand this networking address spaces, and ये देखो subnetting हो रही है यहाँ पे, right? So what we did earlier is very critical to understand kya subnetting ho rahi hai, what is happening and what not, right? So this is the parameter. Then we come to the network. Then compute. Your compute is sitting over here. It's sitting in this network, and this network is being protected. Behind the scenes is the data, application and data, maybe in the VM, and data is further somewhere over here. So yeah, so this is the layers that we put around this thing, so nobody can simply. Then, if somebody is coming in again, इसके ऊपर जो layer बैठी, that is Azure AD, to make sure person is authenticating properly, right? So these are the layer approach and defense in depth approach that you look at it from top to bottom and see and ensure every contact point in this thing is fully secured, right? And जो मैंने email पढ़ाई थी, this is what we are doing basically in this one as well. This is the last slide in this one. So yeah. And essentially what we are trying to do in this one is हमने जब सारा कुछ कर लिया, then we want to see what is happening. सही है? हमने अपनी तरफ से हर चीज पूरी कर ली है, but we want to see the visibility on this thing now. What is happening? हमने configuration गलत की हुई है, हमने कोई attacks आ रहे हैं, something is happening, any kind of configuration mismatch, right? हमने अपनी due diligence कर ली है. We want a system to make sure everything is in order. Somebody messes up the configuration, we want to know. This is where the defender comes in. It's a monitoring service, right? It checks हमारी सारी configuration. It's an AI-based service. It does lot of work behind the scenes and tells you क्या alerts हैं, क्या configuration है, and it has something called secure score. ये Microsoft की अपनी एक वो है terminology where it assigns score to your environment. Based on these things, based on your usage, your score is this much out of 100, something like that, right? So based on this, it'll give you a lot of these things, right? आपकी security recommendation देता है आपको. Any kind of malware running in the VMs, it can block access, it can block the network, it can do various based on industry recognized malware and agents and for example mining agents and various different things. कई चीजें पकड़ी हैं कस्टमर्स ने इस तरह ना, उनके एम्प्लॉइज क्या करते थे, वीएम बनाई और वीएम इज नॉट वेरी मच यूज, अंदर माइनिंग एजेंट डाल लिया अपना अकाउंट बना के, दे मेक मनी ऑफ दीस थिंग्स फ्रॉम योर बिटकॉइन एंड ऑल दैट. तो बड़ी बड़ी चीजें पकड़ी हैं कस्टमर्स ने जो एम्प्लॉइज ने डाली हुई थी वर्चुअल मशीन्स के अंदर बेस्ड ऑन अ डिफेंडर. सही है. सो वेरी नाइस टूल. इसकी वो क्या कहते हैं, so it gives you a lot of this thing and visibility into your environment. आपने जब कर लिया सारा काम, this gives you visibility and gives you, analyzes the traffic, analyzes what's happening and gives you deep information about your environment, what is going on. Clear? So ये एक पूरा हमारा security posture है, from identity से लेके access management and then security, right? You look at all these three things, this creates our security posture, right? So we are trying to basically secure every area of this thing, right? How we are protecting the user access, how we are protecting the system access, and then how we are monitoring everything, right? That is the whole end-to-end story of this thing, right? We have looked at a high level of this one, right? But it gives you good idea and the understanding how things work together, how we look at it, right? Holistically, not कि मैंने identity देख ली या मैंने इस कुछ चीज को देख लिया. I'm looking at everything, right? Defense in depth, proper layered approach मैं देख रहा हूँ उसकी कि everything I'm doing, right? So this is how we look at it from security perspective. And all these things that we have discussed, Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, network appliances like firewall and application gateway and networks, right? And all these things, these all come into the picture to give us a complete end-to-end 360-degree view of this securing the whole environment. And then last but not least, the defender comes into the picture to give us real-time information. Anybody can change anything, right? It'll give us alerts. It can tell us what is any critical issues going on, so on and so forth, right? So this is how we look at it, these things, right? You can see a lot of stuff happens when you're trying to secure, when you build these kind of systems basically, right? The main idea is to have a good picture, good idea of what it takes, right, to do these things. Any questions, anything? So yeah, inshallah. So this was kind of, I want to go deeper into these things, give you a little bit more background information, to give you some motivation for where these systems are coming from, what we are trying to do, so on and so forth, how we are controlling things, right? Or we have touched the surface, but gives you a good idea how things work in enterprises, right? ये review करना इसके notes, इसके अंदर जो basic notes हैं इसके अंदर, they'll give you a lot of good information, a little bit extra details also, right? Anyway, let's stop here now. This is done. The identity access and security module. मैं इसको थोड़ा सा और enhance करने की कोशिश करूँगा. Slides, I can put maybe more information to give you this one. But regardless, this should give you very good idea about everything. So yeah. So as I said, I will stop the recording now on this one.